Hello, this is Max Drake. I want to talk to you about a little add-in which I've been doing for pyRevit or for Revit, which is quite good. I initially thought, okay, then I'm going to use Z.ai to do this. And so what this does, and I'll explain it very quickly, well, it actually wrote me out a whole lot of stuff and things like that. And I ended up popping over to into DeepSeek, and that ended up writing it for me anyway. So if we just come into Revit and then we're just going to go into pyRevit, there's this thing that I absolutely adore called ColorSplasher. Now, I think before it was ColorSplasher, it was, before it was with pyRevit, it was with something like BIMONE, and yeah, they used to give that away for free. It was a free app. And on here, I'm just going to use walls, go through here. I'm going to select the parameter, which is area. I've got things I can either do gradients or I can do random colors and things like that. I can save or load that scheme. So I'm just going to save this scheme and I'm just going to call it 234 and go save. And then I'm going to set the color. And I think it's, whoops, I think it's all there. And you see it's splashed the colours onto the walls as we've done it, and it's done it by area. So this wall here, and this wall, well, actually, I think they're container walls. So those four should be roughly the same colour, and then these ones are slightly longer. So you do that. Then when you actually come back into pyRevit and go into ColorSplasher, you can then reset. Now, I think the new reset's a bit weird, is that the reset doesn't work straight away. You've got to go into load your color scheme and then redo it, which I find a little bit irritating. So it doesn't work that well. This is a little bit laggy, and the reason why I suddenly realised is that I've got the OBS, the video coming through here. So one of the things I can do is just go ColorSplash and go turn off all of those things. So this is the little script that I've been getting the old AI to actually write for me. So it's taken its time for that. It's usually a lot faster. It's just I think I've chewed up all of my RAM with Thimble. Now, when I originally did it, I actually had this thing through here. So it said, oh, sorry. Now I was going to think about it for half an hour, which is a pain. But all I wanted was, when I'm doing stuff, is I'm just like, a lot of times you're actually working off older models or things like that. So I can select a window, I can come into the category color, I can select a color, and then it'll go, if I go blue, actually, I'll do that. We'll do this one here first. We'll just let that one go. And then it'll do it. And this one took quite a while to do. I found it was infuriatingly slow. Now, I actually had done one about 3 or 4 years ago, and I ended up with the color splashes and I got the elements right and things like that. And you see on this one here, on the earlier version, it just colored around the frames, but it didn't actually splash the color straight onto the objects overall. Another thing is when I actually selected this one here, and I just used an object like a wall, and when I was doing this one, and it was going through and selecting a color, it would do another interesting thing, and you see the color comes on this straight away. You see it's blitz there and come through really fast. It's just taking a long time to write a database. Now this one, it would, although I was actually only doing it for these walls, it also did it for this wall here. So this is a basic wall called Clearlight, and this one's just 100 mil wall. So it was a bit peeving because I actually wanted it to actually only do a certain specific type of wall through there. So anyway, I can clear all the color from there on that. So as I said, this is a lot faster. And initially when I was doing it, it was really, really slow. And so I ended up with the thing that it would pick all the elements that I want. So I suddenly got the latest one that I could come through here. And instead of actually going up and getting it on the ribbon, my one's called category color. I can actually just type 1 because that's a hotkey that I've got, and I can actually just go orange and go OK. And now you see quickly it's colored the four walls of the container, but it actually hasn't colored the translucent one. So that's really good. And as I said, the writing of this. Now I've done this when I was doing the original one. I ended up doing it on a larger model, and I think there was something like 246 walls, and it was getting element by ID. So it's getting walls, it was getting the elements, and it took over 5 minutes to actually color those elements and do it. So I kind of said, no, this isn't good. So as I was going through all my iterations with all of this. It kind of kept on doing it, but it was just very, very slow. And we got the enhancements is that, now I could do a single door or a double door or things like that. And so in the end, what I ended up doing was, it might have been a couple up here. Maybe that one. No, maybe further back. Is that I actually said, well, how come, you can no, I think it was it. So what I ended up doing was I ended up going into the pyRevit, and I went into the ribbon for ColorSplasher, and I got all of the files and uploaded them into here, and just said, how does that do it? What are these XAML files doing? And basically they're doing different languages, so that's all they're doing here. So it's actually all done on the Python script. And so I said, well, how come this is fast and yet my one is slow? And they said, oh, well, you've got the choice. You either do it their way or you do it via our way. And then they said, well, the reason why ColorSplasher versus our one's simple, their one's more complicated. You suddenly say, well, exactly, their one's more complicated. So how come, ours is an easy one, yet it takes so long? And it came up with this a bit of an explanation through here. Hopefully I can find it. So I thought it was quite. So I said, why does it do this? So what it actually said, where is that? Here it is. This is where it says, so why is ColorSplasher faster? It's efficient element collection. So it uses filtered element collector with categories to view the filters. Caches the data, builds a dictionary of values once, and then you reuses it. So you're in the model, so you're not going to close out the model and then come back at a later date. So it's in the model, it's just caching the data, and then it's holding that there, and then it's batch processing, so processing all the elements in one transaction. So like when you clear everything, it's grabbing everything that you've done before, the doors, the windows, the walls, or whatever you've got, and it's just doing one transaction all the way through. So that's where it's writing it back to the database again. And it's parameter based. I don't know what that means, but anyway. So I said, well, can you write me one like that? So he said, well, okay, then if I have to. And then it went away and actually did that. So this is what I've got at the end of it, is that I've got one, and I've got to get it to stop opening up all of these blooming things at the end of it. And I can now go in and I can just select a window, and with the category colors, instead of doing these ones here, I've actually just got keyboard shortcuts to these ones. So on this one here, I can just type in 1 and go cyan and go select, and it'll just go through and do the windows. Unfortunately, I haven't got anything of different sizes. The other nice thing again is that it's not doing the different, it's just doing a single wall type, and I tested this one out. It's got a rather interesting thing here is no, I need something that's actually got different scales of things. So cabinet, doors, fridges, everything's all pretty much the same scale on through here. So I'm just going to clear the color splash on that, and it's just going to clear everything off. Thank you very much. And this is where it's slow writing back to the database, but normally it's wickedly fast. So if I can now do color by area. So I've got another one here. Oh, oops, I forgot to. It does the whole thing thing. I did have at one point where I've got it escape. So if I hadn't selected something first, it would do it. So if I go into here, I can now do the color by area, and we're going to go green to red, select. So we can now do a sort of gradation or multicolored thing, similar to the ColorSplasher if I wanted. So if I was hunting different size walls, or not different size walls, but different lengths of walls or areas of walls, which is what this thing's doing, then it'll be able to pick those things up for me quite quickly. So overall, I'm really, really pleased with this tool. I ended up putting the reload, which is in at the beginning of pyRevit over here, and I put it into the category one just so that it would, if as I was rewriting it in VS Code or cutting and pasting it into VS Code, I could reload the program quite quickly. So I've got to clear the color so I can select one item and it'll go and clear the color, or I can actually just clear all the colors. So I actually generally just use all the clear all the colors now that I've got it running on those sorts of things. So again, you know, I can get it on the pipes, and I can go into category color, color by area, and blue to yellow, select. It does have one here saying custom color, and that one doesn't really work very well. And so, oh, it's got some weird colours through there too. Yellows, a blue, and an oddie. So there, and we can just clear all colours. So the other thing with this is you need to put it into your app data, roaming, pyRevit master, and extensions. So if you just go and open up a new one here, just go into here and go % app data, %, unless you've loaded it into Theobob, go down into pyRevit master, go down into extensions, and that's the one that I've actually loaded in here. So you can see it's got pyRevit core already in there, and some of the other items that are in the pyRevit ribbon as well. So I hope you found that interesting. Now, when I first started doing this, I used Z.ai, which was a lot smarter, and it ended up, you know, creating a whole list of things. And in fact, it had quite a nice, pretty little thing that it did, of having lots of little buttons so that you could just select the color that you wanted straight away. But the only problem is this just wouldn't go up into the ribbon. And I just couldn't get the ribbon working, and it tried to do a bit of test data and things like that. So I just jumped across to DeepSeek and said, you know, well, DeepSeek did it, and did you know, your version's not spending time on. I'm just going to go back and use the DeepSeek one. So I actually found DeepSeek was a lot more useful in getting things. And I didn't actually have a lot of the language of the Revet elements and things like that, and all of the Revet API items to actually suddenly say, well, why don't we do it this way? But as it was doing the color splashing, I thought, well, when I splash color, when I do inside Revit, when I'm in here and I just select an element and override the graphics in view by element, I suddenly thought, oh, well, what I normally do is I normally go solid and then I choose a color, and then that's how I'm doing it. So I said, oh, you use the foreground solid, and then do the color. And it said, oh, thanks very much. And then off it went and did that. So I had a very minor input to the AI one, and it basically it went in and looked at what pyRevit was doing with the ColorSplasher as far as storing things up to speed it up. And after it sped it up, you know, when I actually have got OBS running, I actually found on the bigger models it was actually working pretty damn fast. So I was very, very pleased with it. So anyway, I'll upload this that extension through onto my Google Drive and put a link onto it underneath the video so that you can get that, and I'll tell you where it's got to go in the app data folder for actually putting it into there. You can actually have a custom location for it, but I actually found it tends to work better if you do use it there. So I hope you found that of interest. If you found it useful, please give a thumbs up. And I think once you've actually got the information there, you can always take it further. So just go and use DeepSeek or Claude or whichever ones you use, and make it a little bit more elaborate. What I did when I did it the first time 5 or 6 years ago, it was so slow, I just suddenly thought it's not useful. This one here And it's taken me about 4 hours of actually going through and just keep on modifying things all the time before I suddenly thought, well, actually, just go and look and see how ColorSplasher did it. And I remember years ago, I actually tried to go in and see how ColorSplasher worked, but it was actually written in a very, very complicated. My coding was just not up to scratch at that time. So that would have been about 15 years ago when I tried doing that. So take my hat off to pyRevit. Lad who actually was able to code that up again. But as I said, this is just simple. You just select an element, and I've actually just got my keyboard shortcut KS, and if I just go 1 1, or if I just go 1, all defined shortcuts. 1 1 is select color, 1 2 is clear color, and 1 3 is clear all color. So I don't actually have to come up and hunt on the ribbon. I can actually just go 1 3, and it's going to go and clean it off for me. Ta-da! So and for some unknown reason, I can't find the color by area one. It doesn't seem to be good. But basically, I just used the select color and fudged it. So I think I might not have got the thing done right. But I'm not bothered, you know, just for the select color and doing this, for me going through and checking models at this particular time, it's sort of come back to me again because I'm actually trying to build a model from 20-year-old PDFs and scan drawings from the building concept people, and so the documentation isn't exactly brilliant, and so going through and checking to see that I've got all the elements, I find the splash is just really brilliant for that. Anyway, thank you very much. I hope you found this useful. If so, put a thumbs up. If not, I'll bang your heart.